Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Nancy Drew. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. This is actually an episode where a lot of things kind of went wrong for everyone in certain regards. It's like there's progression in certain aspects of everyone's stories, but there's also like, oh, it kind of causes turmoil in other aspects. Like, for example, let's start with Ace's story. Obviously, picking up with him and Carson. Carson's like, you are going to want to talk to me. Obviously, even if you didn't have anything directly connecting you to this whole situation, with Bertram Bobbsey, the fact is you were there, makes you an accessory. You could go down like because of that, so you need to like talk to somebody. He's like, well, Ace is like, I want you to represent me. It's like, well, I can't. It'd be a conflict of interest because he's already got to look after his client who's mixed up in all of this. And so ultimately Ace decides, Carson was told him to get his dad involved, which obviously Ace is like, I don't want to. Like, if I do that, then like, my mom, like, she's kind of got like a weaker heart. Like, he doesn't want it to be too much for her, because he already brings up like, right, I had to like lie about the whole like half brother situation. Like, that still is a secret and stuff like that, just because he doesn't want his mom to worry. So obviously, he finds out about, like, wait, there's a connection to these boxes. Granted, he doesn't tell Carson he has a connection, that he was the delivery boy for a lot of that. But at the very least, he's like, right, if I could solve this, then that would kind of help my situation. I can try and make this right. It's kind of the words that Carson was saying. Like, you have an opportunity. Like, either you can not like, for him, it's like, if you want, like, by talking to police now, you'll make things better for yourself. Because if you don't, things are going to get much, much worse for yourself. And so he has to figure out the coding to these, to the boxes. And he wants Nancy's help, but he doesn't get her help. Because obviously she's dealing with her own thing, which he doesn't want. Like, he could have been like, yeah, it's involving this, but it's like, right, Nancy's got a lot on her plate. I don't want to bother her. Like, I get what she's looking to this frozen heart killer thing. Like, I don't want to take her attention away from it, because I think it's also like, right, I caused this situation, which I think that's interesting too, because I think a lot of the people, everyone's circumstances is something they kind of created for themselves. So I think all of them kind of felt the need, like, right, I need to find my own way out of this circumstance. Especially in Ace's case, it's like, I'm the reason why I'm here, because I wanted to get close to Amanda and stuff like that. So I wanted to help out her dad. I didn't know I was doing anything bad, but still, it doesn't change the fact is that he was participating in something bad. So he kind of goes off a little rogue on his own this episode, which Nick is mixed up with his dad because his dad's looking for him, because Carson called to be like, yo, Ace is in some trouble. So, which he also calls Nancy, which in turn we found out, even though Ace's car is in the shop, he has Ryan's. And it's like, wait, why does he have Ryan's car? Well, Ryan doesn't have money, so he exchanges like favors. Like, instead of giving money, it's like he let Ace get his car. It's like, did you notice our dishes? It's the way Ace does the dishes at the claw. And he's like, wait, Ryan is outsourcing chores? We're going to have a family talk about this later on. I love that. Which even Timberland's like, why a grown man has to like adhere to like just everyday chores, like on an actual chore wheel. Like, that's a whole conversation. But she ended up figuring it out the code. But I think it speaks volumes that, granted, I think it probably took Ace a longer time to figure it out. Because the police were already waiting later on. So Carson had already called Ace's dad about it. But like, Ace and Nick were together because Nick didn't have anything else going on. The claw, there wasn't really anyone there, and he got Jesse to cover for him. But I thought it was so interesting how there's conversations in this that I think are kind of tied to the whole Ace situation at the end. But what I mean is, you have obviously you have Ace's dad being happy for Nick. Is like, oh, how's it feel to be engaged? He's like, yeah, it feels good. And, it's like, yeah, you're lucky to found your soulmate so young. And it's like, how did you know that, that Ace's mom was the one? And he was like, when I wanted to grow old with her. And then Nick was like, yeah, which obviously is a very complicated situation for him and George. They have maybe 10 years. So it's like having that clock is never, and that's just a reminder of that. That just kind of like, right, I want to spend my life with her, but I won't be able to. Like, we have a short amount of time, so I don't know. there's elements to that I think is so fascinating. Like that conversation would come up there, but also just how that ties into like later on, like when his dad is confronting him, when Ace's dad is confronting him later on, it's like, right, you would have known if you had came in to me about all of this, you would have known, like, right, Bertram set this place up, like, location up like this, because this is where your mom works. Like, that's how he operates. Because I guess it's like he wanted it to be in a location that would be pertinent to you. Like, I guess that way it ends up like drawing in and getting your mom mixed in all of this would kind of get you in even deeper. I guess that's what I don't know if that's what Ace's dad was trying to imply. Like, it's not that way, like your family becomes like the centerfold of this, or at the very least it puts you in a precarious situation where it's like, right, you don't want your family involved. It's like, right, too late now, so you better keep doing what I will. He did make it clear, like, because that was a box that was left. Now either that was one that Bertram like put in there later on, or whatever the case may be. Like, the fact is that would have been a spot that would have eventually led to Ace's like mom's work. So, but obviously he's getting on Ace, calling him like, oh, like, it's what kind of idiot would think that? Like, I guess like getting close to I guess, and not like say anything. Like, you saw his fist with blood, like you didn't say anything until now. But also it's just like, I was trying to like get closer to Amanda, and the argument could be like, well, could he be trying that hard? Was he overcompensating because his heart was flying in other directions, and so he was trying to be like a good boyfriend, and so he was overcompensating? I don't know. Like, maybe there's an argument there that could be made. But his dad, continues to chew him out, and that's partially like why, because it definitely shows that like Ace and his dad they've always had a complicated relationship. And I think this is just kind of amplified in this moment, because he's like, about him keeping secrets. And it's like, Ace is like, what? You're really getting on me about keeping, like, you don't talk, like, about, like, your past, about your time as a Marshalls, and now I have to keep, you're talking about secrets. What about your secret son? And then, like, his mom was like, what do you mean about secret son? You're like, oh. And now Ace's dad is looking at him like, oh, this is on you. You're the one that did this. Like, oh, he wants to act like an adult, but he's still staying in the same room he has since he was like 8. Then, it's like, but then he's like, Mom, I'm sorry. Like, I wanted to tell you, but then he was just like, stop. Just, I want you out. I want you gone, which is so, like, because for him, he didn't want to tell Ace's mom the truth, because it's just like, he loves her so much that he's like, if she finds out, like, maybe it is because she has like a weaker heart, and he doesn't want this all, Ace dropping all of this on her all at once might be too much, or whether it's just for him, it's just because he loved Grant's mom, so maybe there's some conflict of interest there. Maybe that's why he doesn't want to talk about the past. Like, whatever the case may be, it's like, we could have been open about it, we could have been honest about it, but it's just like, I think for him, he just feels like his dad's never, like, it's like you're never open and you're never really honest, and you keep a lot to yourself. And, that's, I don't know, I thought that was just, it's sad that he kind of blew up at Ace like that, because even his mom was like, no, stop, like, don't be blaming Ace, you're deflecting from what's going on here. And so for him, it's just kind of like, I guess for him, it's one thing after another with Ace, and now things have blown up to this proportion that, like, right, now Ace is going to feel like, right, like, I'm the reason why my family is in the situation they're in right now, which is interesting, because you get a little bit of that with Nick and George a little bit, but we'll get to that in a second, because George is off meeting her dad. We're picking up there, and obviously, like, he talks about, because George apparently has always known where her dad was. It's like, right, not too many shins, also not many shins around with the same name that you got, because she got her dad's name is Edwin George, so she got her dad's middle name. So I actually wonder, like, is that how, like, the rest of her siblings got their names too? Like, are their names, like, either first or middle names from, I wonder, is the pattern the same? Like, did, like, Victoria, like, take the middle names of all, like, each of their fathers and, like, give it to her children? Whatever the case may be. It's such a, but what obviously, it is something that George didn't open up to Nick about. It's like, right, I'm keeping that to myself. She wanted time to, like, process and figure it out on her own. Didn't want anyone to really know, like, that she was going to visit her dad. But for her, what rubbed her the wrong way is, like, he's a dentist, and how caring and sweet and supportive he is for the kids there. And even he admits, like, the reason why he left was because he was selfish. He was like, yeah, like, I saw the type of life I would have been trapped in, and I wanted more for myself. I know I'm selfish. And for her, it's just like, you left, you know? It's like, you weren't there for me when I needed you. She's like, there was some time, like, what was it, like 2 years ago, she had said, like, things were bad. Like, I was working so hard to support the family. Like, I had to be that. I had to be the breadwinner. I had to be the one to be there for my siblings when Victoria, which, yes, she has her situation. She has her issues. But that spiraled, like, yes, it's because of the supernatural world, but it spiraled out even more to the point I don't think she could ever drag herself back up. Like, she got caught in her pattern, and that is kind of a really, really sad thing they bring up time to time, but we never really dive into. Like, yeah, Georgia's family situation is really messed up, like, especially when it comes to her mom. Like, once again, the supernatural world is the reason why she's like that. It's like she's on her benders to keep the supernatural world at bay, but it's never been a situation of, like, right, like, because it's so ingrained in her now, like, her way of compensating and dealing with it, it's just become a part of her routine now that, like, I mean, it seems like maybe that was an aspect of Victoria already there, but maybe, like, it got exasperated even more, because of, well, not exasperated might not be the right word, it just added more fuel to the fire that was already there, just because it was a way to kind of dull, like, her her sixth sense about the supernatural and her connection and the voices and everything. So to block out that side of things, she had to drown herself in other stuff, like her vices, you know. And obviously George had to grow up really quickly to look after, like, be more of a mother to her siblings than her own mother was. But for her, it's just like the moment, like, something burned in the microwave, the fire alarm went off, and she was getting blamed for it. And she's had to take a step back to be like, this is my life. And she was thinking about just leaving it all behind. But it's like, she's like, I cannot do that. And my sisters, I love them too much to abandon them like you abandoned me. You know, because the only reason why he knows anything about her is like, right, you only know about me because of some fan site. That's what reached out. You're like, yeah, my indomitable will and stuff like that. Yes, I wanted to give up at one point in time, but unlike you, I decided to stick around even though it was tough because I loved them too much to leave them behind. He's like, you must think I'm a monster. She's like, no. She's like, I'm just disappointed in you. She's met monsters, and it's like, yes, you are selfish, but, like, the fact is that you're just a disappointment, because to find out that's the reason why he left. Like, not only he left, he never checked in, and it's like, now you want to send, like, a friend request, you want to, like, know about my life, but the only reason why you know about my life is because Teddy's running a fan site about me. So all this stuff you know about me is exaggerated. Like, yeah, there's truth to it, but even that, it's like, you don't know the real me. And the fact is, I don't have enough time to hate you. I got to spend what little energy I have left, because he doesn't know about the 10-year time clock on her, but it's like, I have to spend that time in better places. And that's like, obviously, like, being in love and putting that towards her marriage. Granted, that's kind of an issue later on when she opens up to Nick and is like, yeah, I went to see my dad. And he's like, I wish you had told me. She's like, what? No, like, this isn't about you, Nick. It's like, this is something I had to figure. Like, it is that thing of, like, right, like, I have to have the space to kind of figure stuff out on my own. Like, maybe I don't want to talk about. But for him, it's like, that's the problem. It's like, time and time again, you hide stuff from me. Because she'd also gone off on her dad about the fact is that she was looking for approval in older men. Ryan, for example, just to kind of fill that void in her heart, like, because she wasn't, like, she was trying to find that approval of, like, because she couldn't get it from her own father. He wasn't there in her life. So it's like, right, do you know, like, what that does to someone? Like, George is messed up in her own ways because of that. But for Nick, it's like, we're in a marriage, like, we're supposed to be that. We, like, you, like, because for her, I think you could see his perspective on things where it's like, right, we're supposed to be in this together. Like, this is something that impacts you, and it's going to impact me too, because we're not just getting married. Like, we're becoming a family. Like, your sisters are my sisters. Like, because, like, you know, the whole point was, like, to get your sisters to kind of be connect. Like, I wanted to connect with your sisters so they could feel like they could come to me. But the fact is that even you won't come to me when you're dealing with something like this. You rather deal with it alone. But I also understand where George George is coming from. It's like, this is something she had to figure out on her own. It's like, it's probably a thing where Nick's like, I'm not saying I would have gone with you. I would have given you the space, but at least, like, I wouldn't be worried about you. I would have known where you were, would have been okay. Like, you would have had my support. I would have been there for you, whether you wanted me there physically, just emotionally or whatever. But the fact is, but for her, once again, it's like, it's still like, hey, it's my business to deal with. Like, I had to figure it out on my own. Like, it was, but so it's the thing, I can see both of their sides and both of their perspectives on it. So I wonder if that conversation with Ace's dad, what kind of fueled that a little bit in that regard, you know? About like your soulmate and wanting to spend the rest of your life with them. But now it's like, right, there's a part of George that keeps me at bay. To be fair, that's like a defense mechanism. Like, she'll even recognize that. Like, maybe she doesn't quite recognize like the defense mechanism of just like, right, keeping people a little bit at a distance, like, you know, guarding her heart, just because it's like, right, it's just afraid of like, I mean, she already opened her heart to Nick already, but like to some extent for him, it's just like, yeah, once again, it's a pattern of like, but it's like, yeah, it's a self-defense mechanism because like her dad like messed her up. It's like, it's going to make you a little reluctant, and just past relationships is going to make you reluctant to like fully open yourself up to someone else. There's always going to be like some scar tissue from like the damage her dad did by not being in her life, you know? So of course, like, situations with your parents are always going to be indicative of, not always, but that's going to play some role in your own personal relationships, you know? So that's an interesting aspect. We have Bess, who's keeping Agent Park busy most of the episode. And then we see Keg stand and everything because she's trying to keep him busy. And then she sees like the cat's eyes and everything. She's like, oh, what? And then the cat attacked her. And she saw its chest because she saw its missing heart. And she threw him down. And Park's like, I don't know how to tell you this, but your cat did. She's like, oh, no, we need to bury him, please. And he's like, oh, please don't cry. And I was like, at first I was like, are we going to? I was like, I guess we already went through the pet cemetery aspect. But I was like, you about to bury him? I was like, is that a good thing to bury him? But it's like, oh, yeah. Also interesting that, like, Park she talks about, like, because he had kind of said a very, like, beautiful eulogy for, like, the cat. And she was like, oh, that was beautiful, especially, like, the Rainbow Bridge part. He was like, yeah, because she thought, like, oh, as a man of science, I never would have thought that you'd have that perspective on the afterlife and stuff like that. But it's because of something he was doing with, like, kids or whatever, where it was, like, conversations about what the afterlife was going to be like, so. But obviously, Bess confronts Temperance later on because it's like, hey, that was Kegstand, that was the missing cat. And she's like, oh, it was already dead, which I'm like, I'm trying to remember, was it already dead? Or did she kill it? She's definitely manipulating Bess. That was clear from the beginning, but it just reigns even more true that it's like, oh, yeah, oh, it's okay. Like, no, if you want to stop Bess, you can. But Bess is like, no, I want to do this. I want to continue, because especially if it means being able to protect my friends. And then, like, very slyly, Temperance takes the, you know, I mean, very openly, but just like, it's just interesting. It speaks volumes that she took Kegstand's name tag. But she at least she was like, yeah, like, I needed his heart to resurrect him. It's like, well, then why didn't you resurrect anyone else? It's like, right, it would have taken a lot more. Small animals take less energy. And she was like, is that why you're keeping me around? It's because you need my energy? I'm like, I don't think she needs your energy. Maybe you're a stepping stone to get to Nancy's energy, because maybe she needs Nancy's energy in particular because they are relatives. Specifically because why Nancy more than Ryan? Because, I mean, to be fair, they are the last two. Well, there's Everett, who's still around as a Hudson. So there's 3 Hudsons left, but she's the 7th child. She's the 7th daughter, or like of the 7th generation. So maybe it's specifically her. She was the reason the barrier was able to get taken down. She has Nancy's blood, and that was able to reconstitute her. So the question then becomes, does she still need Nancy to fulfill some other end of the deal? Like, once again, I feel like, I'll get to it too, but I still feel like Nancy's connected to whatever it is that she was trying to awaken centuries ago, like below Horseshoe Bay. But regardless, Temperance has definitely got her secrets. We just don't know what. Even the fact is that, because even Nancy, when she found out, like, well, you're spending time with Temperance, it's like, yeah, like, Temperance has an alibi for Jake's murder, but it's like, Nancy's still reluctant to kind of, that Park shouldn't really be around her. But I'm like, oh, I would kind of agree. It's just like that. You don't trust Temperance. She's got her own ulterior motives. But I think it's a combination of Bess wanting to. I think because the whole Odette thing, like she's found another means of like filling that void of like, right, I've got to like focus. I'm not going to be worried about, well, I already missed my shot. My soulmate is what she believes, so it's like, right, I'm gonna focus on me, and so that's what this is. It's about betterment of herself, and I think wanting to finally feel special. I think all of that is combined with why she's like probably like her alarms aren't going off about Temperance. Maybe her need and want to, you know, protect her friends, but also to feel special, to be special. Maybe that kind of outshines everything else. But regardless, I mean, she told some aspects of like, but that's what I'm trying to remember. Do let me know in the comments down below. I don't remember if Kexton was already dead. Maybe he was. I think Kexton, was dead already by the time she. But I mean, I don't know. It's also like the fact that you wouldn't say anything. Because I thought it was, because I think the little spell that Bess did brought Kexton. I think it did bring Kexton, but I don't think that correlate. Because like the glow in his eyes, I thought was a byproduct of that spell. I didn't even correlate that at the time. And like when we saw the cat, I was like, oh, what's up with that? I didn't realize that. But I think Bess is the one that helped make that happen. You know, the energy necessary to make that happen. But we'll see where that goes. But on the flip side, Nancy has to work with Temperance if it means finding out what Trot knows. Because of what Nancy did, compromising the evidence a few episodes back, now there's no actual evidence. And now the DA is going to have to drop the charges against him because there's, you know, especially with a murder taking place of the same ilk while he was locked up, it creates reasonable doubt. Plus, there's no like other hard evidence. They're gonna have to let him go, and it's because of Nancy. So she's overcompensating. She's working doubly hard to kind of make up for her mistake because it's like, right, because of how flawed the system is, because of technicalities like that. Now this killer, like, even though it's like, right, we caught him, he confessed and everything, but that means nothing because now it creates reasonable doubt. It's almost a thing of like. Well, because you'd almost think, like, well, could it be that the DA's backing down because she knows it's a fight? It's not a guaranteed open and shut slam dunk? Or is it just because legitimately she doesn't look at good? Their chances at trial just weren't looking that good with things as they are. So Nancy wants to fix that. So she works with Temperance to try and modify the memory spell. And so they use it, and it turns out that Trot was inspired by the person in the hat. The real Frozen Heart killer is a supernatural being. Trot was just inspired by it. He ran into it when he was 10 years old. The thing was locked in a cage, but somehow it got free. But he wanted to be like it when he saw like it when he was so young and he saw it freezing rats' hearts and eating them. But it's like, right, this thing went from rats to human hearts. So how and why? How did it escape? There's still so much about the creature we don't know. But partway through it, like before, like Nancy wanted to stop because of how much of an effect it was having on Trot. That Temperance kicked her out, and then she was like, "What did you see?" And she's like, "What does it matter?" No, it's like, oh, the memory and everything was falling apart. It's like, yeah, but you were in there with him for 10 seconds, and it's like you caused a stroke. And she's like, so what if I did? You know, it's kind of like she brings up the perspective of like, right, I get it. Out of anyone, you want justice. I know you want, because he would have gotten off free. It's like, yeah, like she doesn't like the notion of a bad guy getting away with something. So it's almost like she wants to be an angel of vengeance almost. And it almost seems like she sees that in Nancy. And it's like, oh yeah, you need to fulfill your destiny, which we'll get to that in a second. But like I said, I think it has some correlation to what's underneath the town. But it's like, maybe she needs Nancy to be more like her. I don't know. Because I'm also thinking like, I'm assuming like she's trying to find that creature first. Because maybe she's trying to like track down. Maybe it's not necessarily because maybe that thing was locked up because not necessarily just because, oh, that was its prison. Maybe it was a guard dog for something. Maybe like, and that's what Temperance wants. She's trying to find out where it was sealed away because maybe it correlates to the thing. I don't know, because remember not unless that is the thing that she was trying to awaken from underneath. Horseshoe Bay, but like, no, I feel like there's something else, but maybe it's guarding something that she needs to awaken what's beneath Horseshoe Bay, if that's still what she's trying to do. Maybe she's trying to do something greater, I don't know. But the fact is that she told Nancy, it's like, oh yeah, like, you need to fulfill your destiny, like I told you in the cards. I was like, wait, So, once again, my thought was that it was Nancy. I just found it interesting that she told Nancy that. No one else knows their destiny. The fact is they would tell you right from the start, like, oh, no, that one's about Nancy. Oh, not from the start, but, I mean, this is episode, what, 5? I wasn't expecting them to tell you that. Like, I thought you'd have to figure everything out as the season progresses, sure, to be like, oh, this is that card coming back. This is this destiny. I mean, well, this is this fate. This is this fate. And this is so-and-so's fate. I just wasn't expecting them to be so outward, like, oh, the destiny one I was talking about, Nancy, that was yours. And the moment she fulfills hers is when all the others will fall. Once again, I don't know if that's supposed to be literal, as in, like, her fulfilling her destiny means everything will fall, everyone will fall, or is it just that every other destiny will be fulfilled because every other card of fate, everyone else's fate will be, those cards will be dealt because she fulfilled her destiny. Like, I don't know if that's like, is it the chicken or the egg type of thing of like, does her destiny come first and that releases the domino effect to make sure that the others happen? Or is it supposed to be like, no, I'm just fulfilling my destiny means everyone around you will fall, suffer, or like die in some shape or form? Like, it's a bad thing for you to fulfill your destiny? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. There's a lot to consider on that front. She still wanted information, but she didn't want things to kind of go down that way with Trot. She's like, I didn't want to hurt him. But it's like, it almost feels like Temperance wants to tap into some darkness. Very Eclipso-esque, wanting to tap into the darkness in a person's heart for... I was like, I don't think... Because I was like, would you need to hijack her body? Like, maybe there's something special latent in Nancy that she can't get access to, that you're trying to get her to release, either so you can take it for yourself, like by either hijacking her body, or just... I don't know. Because I'll be like, you're young again, so like, why would you need Nancy's body? Like, what? Not unless there's something special about her that you can only take for yourself if you hijacked her body. So, I don't know. Just like I said, curious how like everything played out in this episode. Like I said, everyone's kind of created their own circumstances, and they were all trying to figure out / fix things kind of on their own. And it's just, I think it's just kind of interesting that like, because everyone's kind of scattered throughout the entire episode, and then at the very tail end, they're all back, but you know, each with their own complicated things. Like Ace is moving in with just needed a place to stay for a little bit till he figured it out. So he's with like George and Nick, but also like Bess has got her circumstances. George and Nick have got their circumstances. Nancy's got hers. So just a lot of interesting elements to that. Obviously, like this whole Trot thing, too, of him having a stroke. Obviously, the camera having gotten covered by Temperance just at the right time with like that butterfly or moth or whatever it is. So. And Nancy and Temperance being at the police station at the same time, you know, Park might start, but it's like, right, how would they cause a stroke? Maybe it's just bad timing, like with the camera getting covered. Like, it's like, you know, he's got an open enough mind. I don't know if he'll straight jump to supernatural stuff or magic or anything like that, but we'll see. I just think it's interesting what this episode contained and just like how it ends up at the very end. I think that's significant in its own right. But that the group is back together, but not all the pieces are fully lining up. I think that speaks volumes about the future. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.